Okay, we're starting a new unit today. Lesson 21B. You are simplifying ratios and finding unit rates, and you're going to practice reading them appropriately. And you're learning this because in real life, like when you go to the grocery store or buying anything really, you want to find the best buy, right? Which one's better for your money? So that would be using unit rates. Go ahead and write this down in your notes. So let's start with ratio. The definition I already put in your notes is a comparison of two numbers with similar units. Since we're talking about similar things, you don't need to label them. So like boys and girls are similar things. It's not like saying apples to chairs, totally different, right? So this is an example of a part-to-part ratio. Go ahead and write that down in your notes. Part to part. And there's a few ways to write ratios. Go ahead and list all four of these. You can write it as a fraction, 4/9, 4:9, 4/9, or 4/9. Go ahead and write those four ways down. There are two preferred ways that we are going to be practicing. So go ahead and circle these two, 4/9 and 4:9. You're going to see a lot of ratios written this way. So that's what we're going to practice. Another way to write a ratio is a part to whole. So if I have 4 boys to a total of 13 students, how did I get 13? Sean? All of them together. 4 boys plus 9 girls makes 13 people, right? 13 students. So this would be as a fraction 4/13 or 4:13. And this is an example of part to whole. Go ahead and write that down on your notes. 4 boys to 13 total is a part to whole ratio. Example of a ratio here would be 3 for every 2. I would write this as 3/2 or 3:2. We're going to practice writing them both ways. You go ahead and finish the other 3 of those. Okay, everyone just say the answers, please. 4 out of every 5 would look like what as a fraction? Everybody. Good. 4/5 or 4:5. How about 7 to 8? 7/8, 7:8. And the last one, 7 parts to 3 parts? 7/3 or 7:3. Very good. So now let's look at the true number 1 on your notes. So far, everything I've given you has been simplified form, right? You didn't have to reduce anything. If it's not simplified, like number 1, you do have to write it in simplest form. So this 40/35, you would first divide top and bottom by 5, so you get 8/7. Now look back at the definition of ratio. Look on your notes. What does it say? Comparison of two numbers. So right now I have 8 compared to 7, right? That's a ratio. If I make it 1 and 1/7, is this still 2 numbers? No, so this is not a ratio. You need to leave it as 2 numbers, 8 to 7 or 8:7, okay? A ratio is a comparison of 2 numbers, so don't make it a mixed number. Go ahead and finish number 2 through 7. Number 2, using the sentence frame. Okay, reduce it one more time. Divide by 2 again. 4/3 and 4:3. Number 3, Sean? Good. 6/7, 6:7. Number 4, Lance?
I determined that the ratios are 4/1 or 4:1.
Very good. Not flipping that upside down. Be careful there. And number 5, Aiden? Can't you reduce that? 3/2 and 3:2. Make sure you reduce it. And number 6, let's have Ethan.
I read that the ratios are 2/9 and 2.
2/9 and 2:9. And the last one, Chloe. 4/5 and 4:5. Very good. Turn your notes over. That's it for ratio. Let's talk about rate. A rate is a ratio that compares two quantities that have different units. So far we did similar things, so we didn't have to worry about labeling. But now that we have different units, you need to label them to specify which one is which, okay? So we're interested in a specific kind of rate called a unit rate. Go ahead and fill in these definitions here. A unit rate is a rate that compares different units, just like a rate does, but it has a specific denominator of 1. So you have to divide to simplify this. So again, ratios, we didn't write the units because they were usually the same thing. But rates and unit rates are a comparison of two different things, so you need to specify which number goes with which thing. So you must label. So in 6th grade, you might have seen something like how fast can you type 1,575 words in 25 minutes. This is an example of a rate. And if you divide this, top and bottom, by 25, you would get 63 words per 1 minute. The denominator is now 1 because I divided this by 25. See that? This is a rate turning into a unit rate. It's per 1 per minute. Here's another example you might have seen in 6th grade. We have 432 miles on 12 gallons. That might be how far your car can go. You would write as a fraction and then divide it. So you get per 1 gallon, 36 miles per gallon. So this rate becomes a unit rate. Unit means 1. Make sense? Okay, you go ahead and do number 8. Find the unit rate of students per classroom and label it, please. Otherwise, it might look like classrooms per student. Good. 84 divided by 4 is 21 students per 1 classroom, Number 9, go ahead and divide this one. It is money, so you might get a decimal, and that is okay because we have pennies, right? We have coins. You could reduce before you divide if you like. 30/8 divided by 2. 15/4. Divide 15 and 4. That might be easier than 30 and 8. Anyone finish it? Go ahead. $3.75 per lunch. Very good. $3.75 per lunch. Go ahead and do this last one here. 15,000 cars sold by 2,000 dealers. How many cars does each dealer sell? This is an average, so it's going to be a decimal. Again, these are really big numbers. So if you reduce it, first divide by 1,000, which means you're doing this. This is a lot easier to divide. 15 divided by 2 instead of 15,000 divided by 2,000. This would be 7.5 cars per dealer. Okay, so let's now look at a quick comparison of these two things we've been talking about. Ratios. If I have similar things like inches and feet, those are almost the same thing, right? I can make them the same thing, make them both inches, and then I have to reduce it to get my fraction and also write it as with a colon. A unit rate is two different things. Miles and hours are totally different. I have to divide this rate to get my unit rate, 60 miles per hour. So a ratio is a comparison of two things, two numbers. Always keep it two numbers. Don't write it as a mixed number. A unit rate is a comparison of a number to the number 1. And it's in different units. Go ahead and fill in the blanks on your notes, please. A ratio, always written as two numbers. A unit rate ends up being just one number. So ratio, here are some examples of ratios. A unit rate ends up being just one number per 1. We usually don't write that one. Let's say miles per hour, words per minute. We usually don't say per 1 minute. In ratios, we don't need the units because they're pretty similar. We assume they're the same. But unit rates, because they are totally different things, we must label to specify which one is which. Ratios, you reduce them to simplify, and unit rates, you divide to simplify. With unit rates, if you are talking about money, money usually goes on top. Usually. Now I'll explain. Money usually goes on top. So let's talk about money. If I have 8 oranges for $2 and I want to know the unit rate of this, the question is really asking, how much does 1 unit or 1 orange cost? So go ahead and write that again. Write this down so you know what you're talking about. How much, which is money, per orange? And this is saying dollars divided by orange, right? Which is dollars on top of oranges. And that's how I'm going to get this $2 on top of 8 oranges. Finding the unit rate of this, when I'm dividing, which one goes on top? Which one goes on inside? The 2. 2 divided by 8. Please don't tell me 4. How much does it cost for 1 orange? Divide, it will be a decimal. Good. 25 cents per orange. We are asking how much it costs for 1 orange, so your answer is going to be money per orange. Does that make sense? If I flip it around, and the question is asking how many oranges can you get for $1, this is not typical. When you go to the grocery store, you don't go in with $1. You're like, hey, how much food can I buy today? Right? You go with a credit card or some money, and you're like, what can I buy, and how much does it cost? You're just going to pay for it, right? You don't go in with $1. Like, how much of this orange can I get? That's pretty atypical. So, unit rate here in some cases, usually money's on top, but if it's asking like, I have $1, what can I get for this? This is the only time you're going to see money on the bottom. In this case, you get the 4 oranges per $1. Okay? So, you go ahead and do number 12 here. How much does it cost per ticket? You're finding how much does 1 ticket cost? Divide again. Sean? $17.50 per ticket. Okay? Okay, let's take a few seconds here. I want you to turn to your neighbor and discuss the similarities and differences between these 3 things that we've talked about so far. Okay? Ready? Share. Which one of these 3 things is the one that you have to divide? If you don't know, you're in trouble for tonight's homework. That's it? Raise your hand if you know. Which one of these 3 things is the one where you have to divide? Celine? Unit rate. You divide to find the unit rate. Which one of these 3 things do you have to reduce to simplify? Reduce to simplify. Maro? Ratio. Good. And then which ones, more than one answer, of these 3 things do you have to label the units? There's 2 of them. Andrew? Rates and unit rates. Very good. Okay, make sure you know these things. You need it for your homework. So we are learning about unit rate because here's a classic example of why. When you go to the store, you want to buy something, there's 2 different things for sale, but they're for different sizes and they have different prices. You want to save money, right? You don't want to be ripped off and pay too much when you could have paid the cheaper one, right? Which one's the cheaper deal? Which one has a cheaper unit rate? So you would have to divide, let's do the first one first. How much does 1 unit, which is 1 orange, 1 ounce of orange juice cost? So you're going to divide money on top. I'm going to do it for you. And you get 0.0675 per ounce. Now at the market, either the calculator or the computer is going to round this answer and give you, round it to nearest hundredth, because this is money. We only have as small as pennies. So this will be 7 cents per ounce. Go ahead and write that down. This 7 makes this 6 rounded up to a 7. And I'm going to do the same thing and find the unit rate for the other one. And I divide money on top and I get 0.075 per ounce, which again, the computer is going to round it to the nearest hundredth. And this gives me 8 cents per ounce. So which one's the cheaper one? Which one's the better deal? Cheaper per ounce of orange juice that I want to spend my money on so I can save up to buy something else. Isn't it obvious? Which one's the cheaper one? The first deal, right? So when you go to the market, either you or your parents, this is what you should be doing. Finding the unit rate between the two things, comparing the brands, which one can you save money on? Okay? And that's it. Yes, question? Well, it depends. If you want to buy per ounce, this one's a cheaper one. You can buy 2 of them. If you can't eat that much, then that'll be different. All right, number ones, would you please share what you learned today while I pass out your homework? Ready? Share.